Charlie always thought that his brother Raymond had low intelligence. However, when the waiter accidentally dropped toothpicks on the floor, Raymond just glanced at them and said,
82, 82, 82. 246 total. Change.
Charlie thought Raymond was just randomly guessing, but out of curiosity, he still asked the waiter how many toothpicks a box.
250.
Upon hearing the waiter's response, Charlie thought Raymond's guess was not bad, only missing 4 toothpicks. But Raymond insisted that there were exactly 246 toothpicks on the floor. As they were leaving, the waiter glanced at the box and said, "There's 4 left in the box." Charlie was left shocked. When Charlie was 16, he ran away from home. Due to leaving the house at a young age to work, all he cared about was making money. Even with his girlfriend sitting beside him, his mind was preoccupied with thoughts of how to earn a large sum. Suddenly, he received a phone call informing him of his father's passing. Despite the news being sad and shocking, Charlie simply responded with, "I see." At the funeral, he distanced himself and didn't even shed a single tear. He was only there to see how much inheritance he could claim. His girlfriend didn't understand why he was acting so indifferently. It turned out that the reason Charlie was so cold and indifferent towards his father's death stemmed from a fight they had when he was young. At the time, Charlie had just entered high school and achieved the top position in the entire school. The reward he wanted was to drive his father's convertible with his classmates. But the response he received was a harsh "get lost." In the midst of his rebellious phase, Charlie secretly took the car out when his father was asleep. Unfortunately, his father was a stern man. After he discovered that his son had taken his car, he immediately called the police and reported it as stolen. The parents of his friends came to bail them out, but Charlie's father didn't come. So Charlie was left in the police station for an entire week. Since then, he ran away from home and fended for himself. Upon hearing this, Charlie's girlfriend became upset because he had never shared this with her before. She complained that Charlie always kept everything bottled up inside. After hearing that Charlie shared another childhood secret with her, the next day the lawyer read out the will. However, the contents inside infuriated Charlie. His father left him the car that had strained their relationship and a rose garden. The remaining $3 million was placed in a trust fund, managed by a nursing home. Charlie couldn't believe his father did that, and the lawyer refused to disclose the true beneficiary no matter how much he asked. So he went to the bank to find the address of the nursing home. When he arrived, Charlie immediately felt something was off. As he pushed open the door, he was left dumbfounded. It turned out to be a psychiatric hospital. Charlie reluctantly approached the director, hoping to find out who the beneficiary was. However, the director insisted on keeping everything confidential. Frustrated, Charlie stormed out. Just as he stepped outside, he noticed someone sitting in his car. Angered, he forcefully kicked the man out. Unexpectedly, the man said,
"Dad lets me drive slow on the driveway every Saturday. Of course, the seats were originally brown leather. Now they're pitiful red."
Charlie was stunned. How did this man know the color of the seat before? He got out of the car and asked who his father was.
Sanford Babbitt.
Sanford Babbitt?
10961 Beachcrest Street, Cincinnati, Ohio.
That was Charlie's home address. The director standing nearby knew he couldn't hide it anymore and came clean with Charlie. The man's name was Raymond, and he was Charlie's biological brother. Raymond had been diagnosed with autism since childhood and was sent to the nursing home when Charlie was still young, which is why Charlie had no idea of his existence. But Charlie thought the director was just trying to deceive him. He went to Raymond's room and searched through it, hoping to find evidence of their lies. When Raymond found Charlie was touching his belongings, he panicked and started reciting various baseball facts. Charlie paid no attention and picked up a book to flip through. To his surprise, the first page contained a message from their father. It seemed that Raymond was indeed his biological brother. However, the temptation of $3 million was too great for Charlie, who valued money above all else. Now, there was only one way left: to convince Raymond to voluntarily give up the inheritance. The first step was to trick his brother out of the nursing home. Remembering how Raymond had been reciting baseball knowledge nonstop, he told Raymond he wanted to take him to Los Angeles to watch a live game. Unexpectedly, Raymond agreed without hesitation. Charlie was proud of his successful plan, but he overlooked one thing: Raymond was a person with autism. Along the way, Raymond made all sorts of unreasonable requests that nearly drove Charlie crazy. For example, the bed in the bedroom had to be placed by the window, dinner had to consist of specific foods, and most importantly, he needed a book to read before going to sleep. Charlie impatiently handed him a phone book, Surprisingly, Raymond found it interesting and immediately started to read. The next day, Charlie took Raymond downstairs for breakfast, and with just a glance at the waitress's name, Raymond accurately recited her phone number. It turned out that Raymond had memorized the entire phone book last night, and this was just the tip of the iceberg of his talent. However, despite Raymond's remarkable talents, he could be incredibly annoying, almost driving Charlie crazy. Just as Charlie was about to take Raymond on a flight to Los Angeles, Raymond refused to get on the plane and began reciting the dates and death tolls of every plane crash in the past 30 years. Charlie tried to forcefully drag Raymond onto the plane, but Raymond suddenly had a seizure. Without any other options, they had to drive to Los Angeles. A journey that should have taken 3 hours now turned into 3 days. However, to their surprise, as they got on the highway, they encountered a severe car accident up ahead. Raymond, frightened by the sight, immediately got out of the car and started muttering about the history of accidents on the highway. Frustrated, Charlie had no choice but to let Raymond walk in front while he followed behind until they exited the highway. Only then did Raymond agree to get back in the car. Now, the originally planned 3-day trip seemed endless. Little did Charlie know, this was just the beginning. The real torment lay ahead. Raymond strictly adhered to the routines he had in the psychiatric hospital, such as not leaving on rainy days and having to eat exactly 8 pieces of fish and chips for lunch. After finally resuming their journey following a clear day, Raymond refused to wear any underwear that wasn't boxers and kept insisting on going to a specific store to buy them. Charlie was pushed to his breaking point. He stood alone on the side of the road, screaming in frustration. Unable to bear it any longer, Charlie decided to take Raymond to see a doctor, hoping to get some assistance. However, during the testing process, they accidentally discovered Raymond's exceptional computational abilities. Charlie thought that with Raymond's impressive computational abilities, he should work in a prestigious institution like NASA. However, before reaching Los Angeles, Raymond's strange habits and routines almost drove Charlie crazy. For instance, on that day, Raymond's favorite TV show, People's Court, was about to air, and watching it had become his daily routine. But in the middle of nowhere, it was impossible to find a television set. However, Raymond didn't care about that and kept pestering Charlie. Unable to bear his nagging, Charlie reluctantly found a farmhouse and pretended to be a salesman, attempting to deceive the homeowner into letting them in. However, as soon as the woman saw Raymond's unusual behavior, she firmly refused. With only 3 minutes left until the show started, Raymond became increasingly agitated outside the door, shouting. The woman, unable to tolerate it any longer, finally opened the door. Charlie quickly explained that Raymond was his brother and had autism. If he couldn't watch People's Court, he would go insane and might even defecate in her hallway. With no other choice, the woman reluctantly let them in. And so, Raymond got to watch his beloved show. Later that evening, Charlie was still troubled by the events of the day and questioned Raymond about why he always acted like an idiot. Raymond, however, muttered to himself.
You think that's funny?
Yeah,
Huh?
funny Rain, yeah, funny Keith.
What'd you say?
Charlie suddenly froze in place. Why did Raymond know about Rain Man? Rain Man was just an imaginary friend he had as a child. Then Raymond pulled out a crumpled photo, a childhood picture of the two brothers together. It was then that Charlie realized that his brother Raymond was the Rain Man from his memories. Because the pronunciation of Rain Man and Raymond sounded similar, his younger self had confused the two. Knowing the truth, Charlie felt guilty and wanted to help Raymond take a shower. But as soon as he turned on the faucet, Raymond started screaming. It wasn't until Charlie said he was okay that Raymond finally calmed down. Raymond, who never touched anyone, broke the habit and patted Charlie's head, constantly muttering that he must not harm his little brother. It was then that Charlie suddenly realized when he was injured by hot water as a child, Raymond had tried to help him, but their parents mistook it as harm and sent his brother to a mental institution. Now, he finally understood why his brother readily agreed to go to Los Angeles with him. It wasn't because he was stupid or something, but because he always thought his younger brother was someone he had to protect. Even though he felt uncomfortable in unfamiliar environments, he was willing to do so without hesitation. That night, Charlie couldn't sleep. He realized that he had received so much love and care in the past. The next morning, they continued their journey. But this time, Charlie genuinely wanted to take Raymond to see a baseball game. The scenery along the way was breathtaking, and the hearts of the two brothers were drawing closer. Charlie not only bought a small television for Raymond but also applied sunscreen to his brother during the daytime travel. However, debt collection calls kept coming in. On one side was his beloved brother, and on the other side was the enormous debt he had to repay due to business failure. Charlie could only shout at the sky in frustration. As they passed through Las Vegas, Charlie suddenly had a bold idea. Since Raymond could accurately remember an entire phone book, remembering a few playing cards should be easy for him. So he began testing his brother's abilities. He randomly discarded some cards from a deck and then asked Raymond to guess the cards.
2 jacks, 1 8, 1 king, 1 6. 2 aces, 1 10, 1 9, 1 5.
Charlie was ecstatic. With a human calculator like Raymond by his side, it seemed almost impossible for him to lose. On their way to the casino, Charlie pawned his gold watch, bought expensive suits for himself and Raymond, and even took Raymond to get a haircut. After getting all dressed up, the two of them went straight to the table with the highest number of chips. Raymond didn't disappoint him. With his calculations, the two brothers dominated the game, accumulating more and more chips in front of them. The casino manager even suspected them of cheating due to their increasing stack of chips. However, the security supervisor carefully reviewed the surveillance footage multiple times, but couldn't find a single flaw. The supervisor couldn't help but express his astonishment.
You know there's no one in the world can counter this 6-deck shoot.
That night, the two of them won over $300,000 in total. Charlie easily paid off his debts with the money. And that night, Raymond also met a girl. Charlie had never seen Raymond so talkative before, and he even made a date with the girl to go dancing at 10 o'clock that night. Charlie couldn't help but feel happy for Raymond, so he taught him how to dance hand in hand. As they danced gracefully, their bond grew stronger. For the first time, Charlie wanted to embrace Raymond, but Raymond started to scream. Charlie had no idea that people with autism were so afraid of physical contact with others. The time quickly approached 10 o'clock, but instead of the girl, the casino manager arrived. It turned out that the girl was sent by the casino. Upon learning about Raymond's exceptional memory skills, the manager, along with all the casinos, put them on the blacklist. With no choice, they had to leave. The next day, the two finally arrived in Los Angeles. The legal battle was still ongoing, but now it had shifted from fighting for inheritance to fighting for custody of his brother. Unexpectedly, the director of the mental institution also came and informed Charlie that even if he gained custody of Raymond, he wouldn't receive a penny from the $3 million inheritance. To persuade Charlie to give up, the director wrote a check for $250,000. However, Charlie said, "I no longer care about the inheritance. I only care about my brother." Charlie returned the check and turned to leave. Soon, the hearing took place as scheduled. The host asked Raymond what he had been doing with his brother Charlie these past few days. Raymond then revealed everything about their gambling and reckless driving. Charlie vigorously explained that he had never harmed his brother. All he wanted now was to take care of his brother, just like how his brother had protected him when they were younger. In a moment of indecision, the host had no choice but to ask Raymond if he wanted to live with his brother. Without hesitation, Raymond answered affirmatively. Charlie secretly rejoiced upon hearing this. Then, the host asked Raymond if he was willing to go back with the director of the institution. Surprisingly, he still answered affirmatively. Perhaps in his heart, both of them were his family. The host then called the director outside for a private conversation. Now only the two brothers stayed in the room. Charlie was afraid that he might never see Raymond again, so in the final moments, he expressed his true feelings.
But I just want you to know that what I said about being on the road with you, I meant, connecting. I like having you for my brother.
I'm an excellent driver.
Raymond also leaned his head towards Charlie willingly, and when Charlie looked up, tears filled his eyes. You see, people with autism are most afraid of physical contact with others. But at that moment, Charlie was the closest person to Raymond in his heart. In the end, Charlie unsurprisingly lost the legal battle. When he sent Raymond off on the train, he promised to visit him in 2 weeks. Immediately, his brother calculated the exact date and time, and thus the movie ends. Rain Man was the first film I watched about autism, and it has always been criticized for its portrayal of people with autism. However, this film, which won numerous awards at the 61st Academy Awards, still has many highlights, especially Dustin Hoffman's performance and the depiction of the bond of brothers. Feel free to leave your thoughts on this film in the comments section. See you in the next movie.